Hi, my name is Dawn Allen, and I'm the founder of DDR Center for Arts and Creativity. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit about how to get inspired for a three-dimensional design. When you're carving in 3D, whether that is in stone or clay, you always want to think about the materials you're carving in. So your strategy is going to be different depending on what materials those are. So this, of course, is one style of stone. This is soapstone, very, very soft. You can just carve this stone even with your fingernail. So you're going to use a different strategy for that versus something where you've got a lot of erosion, high probability of fissures. So if you take a look at this guy here, you can see the gradation, the way the sand is running. So that's going to influence what you can do with this type of stone. So always know your medium. And once you know your medium, then you can start thinking about what do I want to carve. And for myself, it's often connected with nature or the people in my life. So this one here, I visited with my cousin, and she had a very interesting story, and at the end of that weekend that inspired this carving. And then this one here, I had come to visit another cousin, and we were watching a nature show, and she said her favorite animal in nature is an otter. So I came back and I started looking at my stones, and I thought, well, geez, this is just made to be an otter with its baby on the top. so that's how I get a lot of my inspiration. Also, I've done a lot of traveling, and so end up just taking pictures of things that I think I might want to try and replicate. So you're going to have to choose a design that's consistent with your level of knowledge. You're not going to be an expert to start with. So for myself, I often try to replicate what I see other people do. And as I do that, then I learn. Yeah, you can take classes. Classes are very, very good. They're motivating. They keep you going. You're going to go back. You're going to get it done. That's another thing I like about clay, because it's going to dry. You can't leave it sit there for a couple of months. You have to finish this project. So that's one of the reasons I like clay. But I find stone very, very motivational as well. And when you start feeling what you're doing and you're feeling as if it's part of the actual stone itself, it just becomes beautiful. But when you take a look at a stone like this is a raw stone. I don't get inspired by this. I'm trying to think. Initially, when I bought this stone, I was thinking, okay, I'll make a nice little chickadee. That'll be a beautiful little chickadee, but it hasn't felt right. So that's why I have had this piece of stone for probably 6 years. So getting your motivation is really, really a key. I often go to resource books, as we all have resource books at home. No, we don't. You can get them from the library. Pinterest is an awesome resource. Myself, I like to have my resource material with me while I'm designing. So you can pull up the image on your phone, and I've got a nice handy little holder here. Pull up the image, have it handy for reference as you're going through. And with three-dimensional, always important. You never complete one side and then go to another. It's you start in one area and then work your way around. The design will tend to evolve as you're going. So what you picture when you first start often won't be what it is at the end. And, you know, I struggled as well with replicating other people's works. You know, is that really an original piece of art? I'll tell you, I've never gotten a replication exactly the same as someone else's. So it has ended up being original, and I have ended up learning a lot as I've gone through the process. So I encourage you to try and replicate. The thing that I've learned in the classes that I've gone to is when you get your brain thinking about one shape, That's why you often find pairs, because your brain is already just working around the shape, and to do a second one is easy. But if you were to try and do that same shape a year later, chances are it would be very, very different. So if you ever want replicas, it's a good idea to do it at the same time. And then another thing that I've done, especially with this one here, when I first started it, I had this main shape complete, and I thought, oh man, that looks good. This right now is about 90% complete, but when I looked at it, I took a picture with my phone. This is critical whenever you're going through any of your work. At certain stages, give yourself milestones, take a picture with your phone, and look at it overnight, because when you come back, you're going to say, oh wow, there's so many things I want to change, and then you do it. So with this one here, I looked on the phone and it looked very bland. I didn't have any design. I had just left the raw stone, but it didn't look right to me. It didn't look like a finished product. So then I went to one of my adult coloring books, and I thought, let's look at a pattern. Let's find something there. And I didn't end up copying any pattern from that book, but I ended up getting inspired by the patterns that I looked at in the book. And that's when I just drew this. So when you're talking about drawing your design out, for soapstone, again, it depends on your materials. For soapstone, I use an old pen. When you take a look at what was drawn here, I just went in with my pen and just put the grooves and did the setting. And when you draw it out with your pen, you still have a chance to adjust the design afterwards with your carving tools. When you're working with a stone similar to this, you're not going to see that pen mark. So if I were to put that on there, it's going to be very difficult for me to remember where that mark was. So, dollar store crayons. Here we go. So I'll pick a color that I think will show up well on here. And there we go. So I can get that on there. Say for example, if I wanted to make this into an angel or a bird or Batman. Actually, a Batman symbol would be so cool on this. That might be what happens. You get inspiration from everywhere. You'll be inspired by what is meaningful for you, and just try it.
How much time did that take you to get to that stage?
Oh, that's a good one. So this one here, so far I've probably put about probably about 30 hours into this one so far. And that's because art, you can't rush it. If you're rushing something, it's production. This here, you feel it as you go, and yeah, you can rush it. I could have knocked this out. I could probably knock out a replica in maybe about 12 hours now that you do one, and that's a So when you're carving in 3D, whether that's in, oh, that's not going to work, Mr. Howells.